Hi, Gianna.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
We were just talking about your corkboard behind you, which I love. I think there's so much. I'm hoping that the people who watch this will kind of spend a bit of time looking at it too. What is this to you? What is this space?
It's a combination of obviously like useful tools and storage and things that inspire me and happy memories for me. So there's a lot of kind of little sentimental nuggets on there. And it's one of those things that I come into my office on Monday morning and I see it and I'm like, I get to be in here. I get to do this every day. And that's so awesome.
It is awesome. And so you say there's things that inspire you on there. What kind of things inspire you?
Well, this piñata that's over here, the little flower, it inspires me to know that I can make this company really huge, because that's from, we did this huge job and I had 70 team members in here making 500,000 seed bombs that went inside of those, and they gave them away all across the entire country at Lowe's.
Wow.
And that's the one. I got one of them, and so I get to see that every day and know that like that is possible. Like somebody said this is not possible, and I said yes it is, and we did it. And that was so cool. So there's that. There's above that is a picture of me when I was about 3 years old, and my daughter looks just like me in that picture now.
Very cute.
And the other one is when I was pregnant with my second kid and did this great photo shoot. And I was like, oh, this sky is magical at sunset. Like, let's do this.
Wow.
And this, there's two ways to live your life. One is though everything is a miracle, and one is though nothing is a miracle, from Einstein. Was in my dad's office. But I've always had that as like one of the mottos of my company, and I had no idea that he had that hanging in his office. And after he died, I went and cleared out his office, and I found that in there. And I was like, okay, putting this in my office. And then I have a note from my friend that I was in a really tough point in my life, and he came to visit and wrote that little note and like stuck it in between stuff on my desk, and I found it later that says, you're doing great, keep it up. So I framed it and hung it up. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. This 5982, I love like number, I don't know, like symbolism and stuff like that. And I used to find like the dry cleaning tickets and like tickets from running a race and stuff like that, like on the ground all the time. And one day I parked my car and I opened the door, and that was on the ground right next to my car. That's my birthday, including the year. And I was like, no way, that was for me. So I took that, and I've had it for a long time, and I always hang it up wherever my studio is. So I got that kind of stuff.
Beautiful, and thank you for sharing all that. So do happy memories inspire you? It sounds like you gave that example of that project you worked on, but in general, like, do you look to the positive experiences of the past to inspire you to create more in the future?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I tend to be one of those people that I look at negative experiences from the past and say, you know, I already did something that was harder than this. And I mean, I guess they try to tell you not to do that, but I don't know. I don't want to like diminish anything that's currently happening, but it seems to be a lot easier for me to be resilient and deal with things, because I have had a lot of difficult stuff I've gone through, and something comes up and I'm like, oh, in the grand scheme of life, this little thing, that's not anything. It's a small thing. This is, you know, in 5 years, I'm not even going to remember this happened, you know.
It's the perspective of in a few years. It's something like variations of that time frame is like, you know, we really care about it in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Or 5 minutes or 5 years, and it's a really nice gauge whether something is worth spending energy on or not.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. And so this place, right?
Yes.
We are sitting in your business that you built, Papercraft Miracles, that you built over a long period of time, and
Yeah.
for a lot of hard work, and obviously I'm sure with a lot of support along the way. But as a result of that kind of persistence and your vision, you've created a really successful, sustainable business as well as livelihoods for people. And whether it's coming in just for certain projects or some of the people you have here permanently, like that's an amazing thing to have done with your life. And so congratulations on that. And I guess like when you kind of mentioned when you come in the morning, you see that board, it makes you happy. Like, is that how you feel in this space and in general about how everything you've achieved, and like how does it make you feel being here?
It's crazy because when I was in college, I came up with the idea of this company. And I was like, man, that would be so awesome to have this great art studio that was full of supplies and tools, and I could, make whatever art I want to make and have this cool space and like hang out with my artsy friends and do poems and play music and just, have a space to do all that stuff and live above it with my family. Wouldn't that be great? And then it was one of those like, someday that would be cool kind of things that I thought about at 20 years old. And then met my husband, and he was like, hey, we should buy a building. I'm like, okay, let's buy a building. And part of what we looked for when we bought a building, I was like, I want a space. I don't want to buy a building that I can't make paper in, even though I didn't have any equipment, like none equipment. And he was down for that. He was like, yeah, let's find a space that you can do that in, because someday that's what you're going to do. And he might not have said it in that way, but we ended up like hunting around, and we found this crazy building that has that space to make paper in it. And it wasn't even an immediate thing. It's like we bought it in 2013, and this whole storefront was like a loft apartment, and it had tenants in it. And my studio was a bedroom upstairs, a 10 by 10 bedroom, which was cool because before that it was like a corner of a different bedroom that also had my bed in it. So it was like, ooh, this is a bigger studio, And I still was like, someday I'm going to, maybe someday we'll be able to not need the tenants downstairs, and I could take over some of that space, and that will be my new studio. And, someday. And I ended up, we had 2 kids, and I had to move my stuff out of the other bedroom because the kid needed a room. And all at the same time, we got a grant to do a bunch of work on the storefront, and the tenant moved out. We did a whole bunch of work, and I moved my stuff down here, and I sat on the couch and I looked at the ceiling, and I was like, holy shit, I did it. Like, it snuck up on me. It really snuck up on me, and it just like, out of nowhere, I got that like, oh my God, I did manifest that shit. Like, almost 20 years before that.
Manifesting, yes, but also making the choices that led towards it. So, believing and putting it out there is one thing, but actually doing it is another. And I think that's one of the things that people miss about the idea of manifestation is, sure, you put things out there, but you do actually have to do work.
Oh, of course,
create those opportunities as well, and you clearly did that. And your husband, I mean, it just sounds like he saw you and just saw what you kind of had in mind, and you clearly had communicated that well enough to him. And so kudos to him for kind of seeing that you would grow and that the opportunity could present itself. He wanted to help you create the space for that opportunity to become a reality. Is that accurate?
I guess so. I don't think he ever thought it would be like this. I don't think he did. But it's also like, he's not my target market. You know what I mean? But I think part of it is that I'm just convinced, you know what I mean? And so it's kind of hard to like go against that, because he's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, it's happening. And I wouldn't say that I'm like a big picture person, but I am definitely an idealist person. And he is a realist person. So he's like, oh, this is something that I could do. I can, help make a space so that, we can all make art here and this will be cool. And I was like, oh, there's a space here. And if I have a space, I can get this equipment and I can make this stuff and I can sell this stuff. And like, then I won't have to go to work at somebody else's company ever again. And, I don't think he saw it like that. He was just like, oh, artists should have a studio because that's cool. Not like you should have a studio so that can be your job. So
that makes it even nicer in a way. I think it's just that he just saw the passion in you and wanted to support that and at least be a part of that. So I love that. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, imagine when you're creating in here, you are in a flow state often, and probably when producing music or in that creative realm as well. Are there any other parts of your life that you do find yourself kind of losing track of time because you're so into something that's not creative?
Doing yoga. Yeah, yoga is like exercise and church for me at the same time. And I definitely need to do it more than I do. I am 10,000% a better person when I do yoga at least 4 or 5 times a week. But yeah, that's one of those things that it's just, like we were talking about earlier, everything in the world is so fast and you have to react to everything in the moment and you only think in 30-second blips at a time, and it's all just coming at you all the time, and it's like riding on a roller coaster. And yoga is that chance to just be there and show up for yourself and take from the world, give to the world, take from the world, give to the world, and that's it. And remember that you're not this person on a camera that people see on the internet, that you're alive in this body on this planet, and that it's so much more than just you, and that it's all the same energy. It's all the same energy.
We're all just bumping off each other one day after another. Is there anything that you are learning now?
That I'm too old to eat crappy food.
Good lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very apparent that the things you put in your body matter once you get to your 40s, for sure. I wish I'd kept up with it. I used to be so, before I had kids, I would exercise every day, and I tracked all the calories and ate all the healthy food, ate carrots like dessert, that kind of stuff. It was every once in a while I would have pizza or whatever. And then I got pregnant, and my first kid was all food except fried chicken, plain bagels with cream cheese, and chocolate milkshakes is disgusting. And yeah, it's taken a long time to get back into even just meal prepping and stuff like that. So that's something I'm really, really learning, but also learning that I'm listening to what my body needs more. And I've had chronic migraine for over 30 years. And it used to be every Sunday I would have a headache. These are all years I worked for somebody else. And I was like, oh, I have a headache on Sunday because I had to go back to work for someone else on Monday. And it was the sign that I need to stop and slow down and focus back on myself and not just go. So I've been doing a lot more of that. This is ignoring the pull from the world to say if you sit around then you're lazy. Because I know that if I'm feeling like a day where I need to make no plans and literally wear my robe and watch garbage on TV the whole entire day and not get up, I'm if I need one of those days, I'm going to take that day. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it, because if I don't take that day, it's going to be 3 or 4 days where I have to do that instead of, taking a rest day because I need to instead of, forced to.
Both that and the food thing, the word that comes to mind is habit building, right? Both of those things, you have to build these habits or unlearn bad habits. And I resonate with it because food, over the last 10 years particularly, I've kind of gone through a similar journey, and like I've gradually like almost cut out everything just to see what the difference would be, and wasn't necessarily conscious for a while, but I was just naturally doing it. And I've worked out that I'm like 80-90% of the food I was eating affects me like in lots of different ways. And having cleaned my diet and cooking food and it's changed my physiology, it's changed everything about me and given me so much more energy and clarity and focus, and I know now if I eat a pizza or I eat a burger with a bun, like I feel it, like the difference in me right away. And it's just, it's an amazing thing that I wish everyone had the opportunity to try and see the difference. And because it's amazing how much bad food people eat.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just so wild with how I grew up versus how my husband grew up is really different. And my dad was a scientist at UB, and so he had all these graduate students who were from countries all over the world. And so, you know, on the weekends, he would like invite these graduate students who were like living in a foreign country to like come over to our house, and they would make food together. So we would have like straight up authentic Indian food made by people from India, and like Chinese food made from people who lived in China. And like, that was my weekends at my dad's house, was like eating all of this like amazing food. And he would make like corn tortillas from scratch in his tortilla press, and we would have tacos, and he would shred the cheese like right on the top, you know. And my husband never had a taco until he went to graduate school. Like, he grew up where, you know, corn and potatoes were the only vegetables that they had. And growing up at my mom's house during the week, she knew about all sorts of vegetables but couldn't afford any of them. So we had like celery and carrots and iceberg lettuce. But it's just so different to me to like, you know, that his family in general is like pizza, subs, you know, that's their go-to. And I was like, oh, but we could get all of these other things, you know. Anytime we order a salad for like a family event, there's always leftover salad and not leftover anything else. So that has been really difficult to like, you know, kind of join my life with the family that is so different from mine. And, you know, I'll bring the vegetables and I'm the only one that eats them.
I don't think that's an unusual scenario either. Mixing cultures and let's talk about that. Like with you and your husband, different backgrounds. Like, what are some of the most important things you've learned from him, from his history?
That people don't always leave.
It's a lovely thing to learn.
It really is. Like, my family was so crazy growing up, and like somehow I got together with a guy whose parents are still married to each other, have only been married to each other for 40, almost 50 years. Got together when they were teenagers. It's so crazy.
That's
like
amazing
to think about that. And like I had 5 parents growing up, and I'm like the oops baby in the middle of 2 marriages that were falling apart. My mom worked for this woman and hooked up with her boss's soon-to-be ex-husband and got pregnant while she was still living with her husband, who she was technically separated from, but they still lived in the same house. And then, oops, here I am in the middle of all of this. And everybody got divorced. My mom and my dad never were together. And when my mom told my biological dad that she was pregnant, he was like, yeah, take care of that. I'm out of here. And he said he was going to go on sabbatical to Germany for the year and that he wasn't even going to be in the city. And so she was like still separating from her husband, who knew I was not his kid. They had another kid and they were so broke. And she was like, what am I going to do? Blah, blah. But she knew that she had to keep this baby. She'd had a dream about me when she was pregnant with my brother. And then he was born and she was like, this is not the kid. And then she got pregnant again. She's like, this is the kid. And she ended up keeping me. And went into labor on Mother's Day. During Mother's Day dinner, which is funny. And then her soon-to-be ex was there because they were still a family, you know what I mean? Like, he was there at her parents' house and packed a suitcase and drove her to the hospital and held her hand and took photos and put himself on my birth certificate as my dad because my biological dad wasn't there. And then the next day, my biological dad showed up at the hospital. Somebody had called him. He had not gone to Germany at all. And he shows up at the hospital and says, "Hey, where's my kid?" But they never changed the birth certificate. So my whole entire life, I had two dads. Both of those dads got remarried to women who had also been divorced before. Some of whom had kids from previous marriages. So I grew up with 7 brothers and sisters, but I'm an only child. And I lived at 3 houses every single week. With my mom Monday to Friday, who was so broke, so undiagnosed ADHD her whole life, just no executive function, total hoarder house. It was insane. She was amazing, but sucked at being an adult. And then Friday night and Saturday, I'd go and live with my legal dad and his wife, who were both teachers. And it was very, routine, very structured, very regimented. We're going to, do homework at this time. We're going to brush our teeth. We're going to wash our hands. We're going to, go for outings in the afternoon and teach you about community service. And, we're going to do all these, strategic, good parent things. And then Saturday night and Sunday, I'd go to my biological dad's house way out in the country. And he and his wife were both professionals. He was a scientist. She was a lawyer. They had good money, but we were way out in the country. And it was there was a lot of outdoor, unsupervised time as kids. And so I got to have all of those experiences as a kid. And then I get together with my husband, who his parents are still married to each other. He's had the same people around him his whole entire life. And he lived with all those people 100% of the time until he went to graduate school and went to college. And, I got very used to being independent and packing my own bag at 4 or 5 years old to go from house to house to house every week. And I was responsible for me, and these are my things. And every place I went had kids who lived there all the time. And I didn't have that. I was always this transient person. And it's one of those things COVID really highlighted so much for me about how hard it is for me to stay in one house with the same people all the time and not go insane. I'm oh, if I don't have that, go out in the community, interact with other people, spend time outside of this little unit, I go so insane. I don't even know how to stay in one place like that. And yeah, I don't know. So we've had a lot of those kind of headbutting things where he's but you should want to be here all the time. And I'm how do you want to be here all the time? Don't you want to, get the fuck out of Dodge? I got to run away for a little while. I think part of it is that I grew up because I wasn't around any of the people in my life 100% of the time. When you live with people all the time, they piss you off. They get under your skin, and leaving was always an option for me. And it doesn't ever occur to him that leaving is an option because no one has ever left him. So it's one of those things that I've had to kind of do a lot of childhood trauma therapy kind of stuff to be you deserve to be in a place that's very stable. I don't know. I've never had that. I lost my mom when I was 20 years old. I had my shit burned in a fire, right after that. I've been through a lot of shit. And it's so interesting to me to be married to someone who has no trauma. None. None.
Thank you for sharing all that.
It's got real deep on your podcast.
I'm here for it if you're here for it, and so thank you for sharing. And there's so much stuff in there that I could talk about with you for a long time, but the detail I'm going to pull out is your lifestyle as a kid, right? You're with your mum, you're with your dad in these completely different structures and environments. And to me, while traumatic as that would have been, like no doubt, like, and just confusing, I can't imagine like how you made sense of it. But I guess as you look back on it as an adult, like to me, I see that as a great advantage in preparing you for the world and to be independent, as you say, and to just show up and just, you know, look after yourself, because you know, you're not getting looked after how you think you should be looked after. And anyway, but like, so I think there is a lot of advantage, while there's obviously all the pain and suffering that came with it. Do you see it that way now?
Oh, I definitely do. And, you know, in the way that, like, most people are lucky if they have one parent that gives a shit about them. I had 5 parents. 5. And then, like, once I grew up, my dad's first ex-wife, who I had never met, the woman that my mom, like hooked up with her husband and oopsie made a baby, she showed up into my life and gave a shit about me too, which is crazy to me. But not only did I get to grow up in all these different environments, so like I know about what it's like to not have enough. And I know like how to be appreciative of just having enough. And I also know about like having extra and how that can like ease a lot of stress, but doesn't necessarily bring you happiness. You know, and I know about, it's so crazy to me just to, you know, have seen all these different relationships, like work and not work, and, you know, how much more difficult it was for my mom to raise 2 kids by herself than it was for either of my dads to raise kids as a partnership. And like even just living in all these different like physical environments. So it was like I lived in 2 different neighborhoods in the city, but I also lived in like rural, quarter-mile away from the closest neighbor. So different socioeconomic backgrounds, you know, like, you know, my mom was super broke. So we were like barely at the poverty line, like not broke enough to get any benefits, but like at the point where like, if she was like $5 broker, it would have been a lot easier for us. And like at that point with someone who never asked for help, even though she desperately needed it. And then to like be with 2, you know, middle-class, hardworking teachers who went on 1 vacation a year and they budgeted everything and they were making it work, but it was still not easy. And then, you know, to go to go skiing at my dad's house on the weekend. Like I got to have all those different life experiences. And at my mom's house, I was the baby. It was me and my mom, my older brother. And at my other dad's house, I was in the middle, because his wife had a daughter who was older or younger than me and a son that was older. And then my brother, who had the same dad, he was there too. So I had 2 older brothers and a younger sister. So it was right in the middle. And then I go to my other dad's house, and his first 2 kids were way older. So they didn't live at the house. So I got to be the oldest kid. So not only did I get to live in all these different socioeconomic backgrounds, different family structures, like all of that kind of stuff, but I also got to like experience life at all these different, you know, age ranges and leadership styles and like all these things. Like most people who are the baby of the family are always the baby of the family, or it's for a little bit and then maybe they're a middle child, right? But nobody gets to move around like that. And I think it was so interesting to like learn how so many different relationships work and don't work. And, you know, I remember strategically thinking like, my biological dad was so dedicated to work, and he changed the fucking world with his work. But when he died, all of his kids were like, I didn't even know he liked me. So I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be that. But I also don't want to be at my funeral and have people say she didn't do anything that changed the world, you know? So I you know, I've learned like that's not the way to do it but that's not the way to do it. And that's not how I want to do it. And that's not how I want to do it. And so I think I've been able to kind of pick and choose like the best things, what works and what doesn't work. And somehow out of this craziness managed to, knock on wood at this point, be married once and still married to the same person. 14 years.
Congratulations for navigating all that. I just, as we come to the end of it, to me, while that experience was you as a kid, it just reeks of the idea that Inspires Q is that, we learn most from experiences and people, right? The more we do of both, the more we learn, more we grow. And the experience you had then, I think anyone should try and have any time in their life, and obviously not that exact experience, but that kind of variation of doing different things with different people and kind of getting yourself out of your comfort zone and exploring yourself and the world around you is just, there's so much value in it. And again, I just think it's just such, well, as traumatic as I'm sorry, I can't imagine, but I can only imagine. I just think that such a valuable thing for you it's clearly helped you so much. At least from what I know you, it's clearly resulted in just a very hardworking, passionate, caring person who, as you just kind of laid out, wants to make the world a better place. And if that's what came out of all that, I mean, that's a really amazing thing. So I'll kind of end it there with the interview because I think that's a nice place to do it. But before we go, if there's anything else you want to share, you didn't get a chance to, or you can ask me a question or anything else.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's so much value in getting out of your comfort zone and interacting with people who you don't normally interact with. And I think if we're going to get real deep about it, I think all of the problems in the entire world are because people are so insular and they don't interact with people who are different than them, who think differently than they do. And the algorithm supports that. They're like, these are the things you like, and I'm going to only show you those. But I think that the more that people recognize how important it is to recognize when you're wrong and to say that it's okay to admit that you didn't have it right or that you didn't understand someone else's experience. And I think the more that people actually do talk to each other and believe each other's lived experience and say, oh, wow, I didn't realize that the world was like that for you. Maybe I shouldn't say it's always A, B, C, D, or E, because now that I've talked to this person, I've learned, it's definitely not like that. What else do I not know about? And I think that, at the heart of all of, every religion, every way of life that they put down in a special book, right? The heart of all of those things is be kind, take care of each other. That's it. You can call it God, you can call it Allah, you can call it Jesus, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Energy. Be kind, take care of each other. And the more that we are not kind, and the more that we're not taking care of each other, the more that we forget that we're all a huge forest. The roots of all of us are connected to each other. And if we aren't kind and we don't take care of each other, then the forest burns down.
No doubt. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that too. There's just life lived is life lived, and life made value of. And more things you do, more people you meet, more value and more life you'll get, and the better your life experience will be, whatever is going on around you. Because as you say, there's so much diversity in what people have to offer, and a lot of it surprises you, right? I think that's one thing I found along the way is just I'm surprised so much. Like your telling of your childhood, to me, I've never heard anyone that's ever had a childhood like that.
I don't know if anybody
and I'm going to think about that, because that's just like how the dynamic would work out. That's just such an interesting story to me, and everyone has those. You know, everyone has their versions of that, and there's a lot of value that comes from that. So I'm glad you beat your drum that way and kind of walk the walk that way. And also thank you for talking today and being vulnerable. And it's always nice to talk to you and see you, and just thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime.